Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching us from different time zones, good morning or good evening, wherever you may be. And if it's the first time you've seen me live today, my name is Marilyn. I'm the founder and CEO of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, Asia's most trusted training and business solutions partner. We create programs that adds value and impact for leaders to stay relevant, adapt to the next normal, and ensure performance of a hybrid team. And today, it's my great pleasure to introduce our leader. Wanda Tan Kalupig is a certified public accountant and audit expert based in Dubai. As a burnout survivor, she is on a mission to end burnout and help others live happier lives through audit, coaching, and training. Her mission led her to get recognized as the 2021 number one most influential Filipina on LinkedIn, Best Career Coach by Global Coach Awards, Global Women Who Rule, Top 2000 Inspiring Women on LinkedIn, and more. So, for over 22 years, Wanda made a positive impact on big companies like Intel, Emirates Airlines, which led to $1 million improvements in performance, productivity, and profits. She brings with her real life strategies and stories with her 20 plus years of experience and expertise working with various multiple industries and personalities around the world. So, without so much further ado, I'm sure you got excited with that introduction. Welcome, Wanda. Hello.
Thank you for inviting me on your program, Marilyn.
It's my great pleasure to have you today. And again, that subject not only leadership but about burnout and like having to navigate the adversities in today's world, in this VUCA world. I would say these are very relevant topics that everyone has to learn about, right? So before we start, I'd like to let them know how do we get to know each other actually, right? So we're both in the 100 top most influential Filipino women on LinkedIn. So that's where we actually get to know each other with this community. So thank you to the organizers of these Connected Women and of course Virginia Bautista and Miss Bless for bringing all this in reality. I would say, and the rest of the team and volunteers who's making it possible for to create that community on LinkedIn as well, right? And today I'm actually here using a function room in Hotel Grand Pacific where I'm having my training somewhere in another in another room, and I really am glad to have you again. And I have introduced you. I hope I gave justice to your introduction. But if you have anything more that you'd like to add to introduce yourself, to share your journey, particularly on the theme of leadership and transformation, and of course, around burnout, feel free to add it within 2 to 3 minutes.
I think, Marilyn, my introduction is long enough. But maybe as an opening, I never want to bore anybody else about, but I think, as leaders, I mean, first, as a mother, I see myself as a leader. As a previous audit manager, I see myself as a leader of the organization and my team. And I think it's important to think about, what are these things that's happening in our life that's causing stress, and because that leads to burnout. And I'm very excited to talk about that today because even before burnout was a terminology that was used, I had that. So it started for me in
That
2014. Yes. So I was like accelerate. I think I was kind of advanced that way because when people were defining that just recently, I was like, wait, I fit in every box and in every symptom there is. So that's why I'm very passionate about sharing because it really took me so much time, money, and energy to be in this place where I am now. So I'm very excited to share everything I know because, we talk about leaders, but I'll say every person is a leader themselves, a leader of themselves, a leader of their families, a leader in the organization in their definite different roles. So I'm excited to talk about that today.
Thank you for that introduction. And again, it's just very fresh that I did a talk for other leaders from accounting and finance as well. So just timely, I also like talk about how like taking care of themselves and having this balance will help them to be happier and be more successful, right? And it's interesting when you mentioned that you're a mother as well, and being a mom you're a leader, and that's like, we play a lot of roles in our life, and it's important to know that as to in fulfilling those roles, we have like several things to be mindful of as well. So and I also wanted to invite, especially those who are watching us live today, to do join us in this conversation. It's not about me and Wanda talking about this, but join us. Whatever your questions is, takeaways are, feel free to join us in this conversation. So, I'm just curious to know, you had like over 2 decades of experience, and who are your influencers? If you have a favorite leadership styles that leads you on how you define what leadership is for you now, please do share with us.
I think in my 43 years of existence and 23 plus years corporate working experience, I'm very blessed to work with different nationalities and personalities. But there are some people who will always remain in your heart because they kind of change your life. And
Mm-hmm,
I'll say there are a few at the top of my mind. Number one is Dean Paxlapid. He's actually one of the top 30 LinkedIn leaders also on LinkedIn. And during the time of my life when I was looking for meaning, why am I here? What am I meant to do? Because at the core of it, I mean, I've always wanted to work overseas. I wanted to have that possession, I've had everything I wanted in life. And
mm-hmm,
at that stage in 2014, it was so difficult for me to accept I wasn't okay. So, and I cannot even speak about it. That led to so much stress and sickness, and definitely it boiled down to burnout. And Dean Paxlapid is one of those people who was a living reminder for me at that time that you can be and have everything you want in life. You can reinvent your career. You can have a passion based business. And I'll say after 9 years of really, I will always say you need to find that person, that ideal person that you want to live your future. And for me, that was, I think, the top three mentors for me is Din Paxlapid,
mm-hmm,
because he was really that person who's, I will say, he's in his self actualization stage because he was always giving back, living life with purpose and meaning. And when I saw that was possible for him to retire early, to
mm-hmm,
create a business that he loves, and I really told myself that time I want to be like Dean Pax, a happy, healthy, wealthy, early retiree. So that became my motto, and it happened for me after, I'll say, 2.5 years after really learning from him. Also, one of the things that really helped me was Paolo Tibig in terms of public speaking. I mean, when I saw him in Dubai for a training, I was like, this kind of training is kind of different because he was like, it's just like I'm in a comedy bar, but I'm learning at the same time. It was kind of transformative that makes you very excited. And I remember having that conversation with him saying, how can I be like you? It really
wow.
started 9 years ago. And yeah, that journey, I think this, I mean, I've worked with so many coaches and trainers all over the world, but I think these two people are so close to my heart because wherever I am, I mean, I've relocated to Malaysia, Philippines, here in Dubai. They're just like always a message away if I do have questions. And they
Mm-hmm.
were always there hand holding me because most trainers and coaches, they're there if you pay them. After that, they're gone. For me, a leader is something that leads regardless of and these two people, I'll say, have the greatest impact in my life.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I personally know Paulo Tibig as well. We've actually met here in Singapore. I don't know how many years ago. I have his book, the orange book, so yeah, and I mean, like, that's what we are also proud of with the things that we do today, right? It's not really about just the training that you're attending today. When we organize most of our trainings, most of our consultants and trainers would also uh, be there and be able to, like, provide us with assistance even after the training program. So thank you for sharing that with us. And so I'm curious to know, you've mentioned several times about your experience having a burnout with work. And again, this is like the main topic or the main focus of our conversation today. So I'm curious to know, like, what would you say would be the top three problems that most leaders would normally face? And based on our conversation and what you just shared, that's probably one of them.
I think, most leaders face a lot of problems. Number one is dealing with change. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many changes every day that we humans are not programmed to cope with. And I think that constant change in our role, I mean, specifically us mothers have so many roles every day. Every day is different. So that's kind of alarming. Even in the office. I mean, when you go to the office, you deal with different kind of people, different day every day. That kind of, so much change in the world is really costing a lot of disruptions in our own mental well-being because the mind hates change. That's one. Dealing with change. Second, it's also about the lack of guidance. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I mean, in my corporate career, nor in many executives I work with, there was really no hand holding. I mean, you become a manager, okay, you have a few training here and there, but there's really no like manual how to be one, there's no manual. I mean, as an auditor, an accountant, you always like, what's the standard operating procedure here? I mean, there's no manual in life. There's no manual in leadership too. And you have to continuously navigate what's right, what's wrong, what's acceptable, and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the lack of guidance. And similarly, number three, it's the time, the money, and the energy. If you want to be a good leader, they said here a lot of leaders are burnout themselves. Yeah, because number one, nobody's helping them, so they cannot help others too. And I think it's about the time, the money, and energy that you need personally to be
Mm-hmm.
of help yourself first, so you can help others. So I think three things that managers really are facing in terms of the problem and the challenge is the change.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is the lack of guidance. And number three is the time, the money, and energy they need really to be at a different level to overcome every challenge that comes their way.
Wow, thank you for identifying all of these. And I mean, like, in even in my introduction, we have shared like how people can stay relevant and perform even, during the difficult situations that we're facing. And now that uh, before we even started this live interview, right? We were like having this conversation on how it has been difficult as well for most people to adapt in this next normal, or what we call the VUCA world, where a lot of uncertainties and, like what you've said, changes that are happening around us. How are we actually coping up? Although, despite that, we all know that change is constant, and that, in every step of the way, in every journey we have, in every um, organizations we work with, we will definitely face change. But as to, like, how fast paced it is right now,
Hmm.
and for us to be able to adapt to that, actually leads to that burnout, right?
True.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So that's what I have been observing. And that's the reason why also, speaking of lack of guidance, that's why now, at least, there's like more and more awareness for most people on how important having a coach and mentor is, right? Because we need that. Again, it's quite funny, but it's true that you said there's no manual in life, right? How we wish there is, right? There's no manual in life, right? There. there's standards, there's best practices, but sometimes, each of us will face different difficulties, different challenges that we need to cope up with it, right? And again, like, this is again the resources thing, time, money, and energy that, sometimes if you feel the lack, in fact, one of the top problems when I ask them, right, for their aspiration, I ask them the next question is, what what do you believe is the gap between this, right? And
Mm.
then, yeah, this is the lack of time, lack of budget, lack of this, lack of that, right? And we tend to have also like doubts in ourselves when we face these challenges, right? So, but of course, we don't want to leave our audience with all this problem, right? So how do we beat this burnout, and what are the important actually leadership capabilities and skills that you must have in order for you to continue to lead effectively, whether it's post pandemic, next normal, or whatever they want to call it? And if you can, you've mentioned you're like a survivor, burnout survivor, so how would you relate that in your own experience and story?
I think that's a good question, and I think it's always important to step back first and ask yourself, because we're talking about burnout, but the core and the main reason why you're having burnout is your stress, and you are stressed because there's always an expectation and there's reality. So, and it's easier always said than done, but right now, as there's so many changes that happens in the world, and you always have this expectation that it should be like this, things should happen, and then the reality is very different from how it is, I mean, in terms of our life. So you always go back and ask yourself, where is your circle of influence and circle of control? Because for me, during that time, when I was having burnout, I was just constantly stressed and sick. And I just accepted that maybe I'm just a working mother, I'm too busy. I just accepted as normal.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you look at the design of our lives, we are just meant to be happy and healthy. And when my children started to get sick, then it became unacceptable to me as a mother that I cannot bear. I mean, I'm okay to be sick, but seeing my children sick is another level of stress for me. So you need to look at the signs and the symptoms of burnout, because it's different for every person. I mean, burnout, they define it as workplace stress, and you're not aware. I personally was not aware that the workplace stress is the one I was also carrying at home, and that stress I'm carrying at home is affecting my family too, because our lives are so much integrated that what happens at work happens at home. It affects your relationship, it affects everything in your life. So I will say, as a leader, you should always be personally aware. How is your work affecting your personal life? How is your work affecting your relationships and every area of your life? Because if you can understand those triggers, then you can also understand how can you deal with it. Because for me, when I understand that, okay, number one, I was stressed at work, and number two, I have everything in my power to change my response to that. Because I was never taught. I mean, nobody teach me that stress is a response, that you can always change your reaction and all. But when I realized that, okay, stress is an emotion that I would always have control of, and nothing and no one can stress me unless I allow it. When I understood that principle, and maybe the formula of life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond to it, when I've mastered using that formula, I became, I'll say, stress free at least. And when I relax, automatically my children were able to get those energy as well. And similarly, the people I work with are more relaxed because I was able to, as I think as a leader, it's always about leading yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Agree.
like you cannot give something that you don't have. So if you're a stress leader, automatically you're gonna stress your team and the people around you. And when, if you have a stress manager, he's gonna pass it on to you. Now it's always the choice of, will I pass it on to the people below me, or should I control it at my level so that everything will go well? I mean, when I understood after these trainings and coachings I've enrolled myself, personally, it really changed my life because that helped me understand that I have every control of everything that happens, and I have every control to change the response. And that is when I was able to manage the stress, the
Mhm.
sickness, and everything fell at the right place, thankfully.
Mhm. Wow. And that's a great reminder for everyone, because sometimes that huge gap between the reality and the expectations that you might have, as you mentioned, right? Sometimes it really causes us like to be stressed or unhappy about the things that are happening in life. And I'm flashing this reminder that you've mentioned that 10% of what happens to you is based on the 90% on how you respond to it, which is like a great reminder for every one of us, right? So thank you for sharing that. And from what I hear from you is really so much the important leadership skills and capabilities then is really so much of, again, like what you mentioned, awareness, and leading yourself, right? Did I miss out anything?
Basically, that's it. I'll say every change, every positive change starts with awareness, and everything is about leading yourself. It's all about 100% accountability because it's always easy to blame others,
Mhm.
to be on the victim drama. But you
Mhm.
could also be the victor in any situation and ask yourself, what could I do from this situation? How
Mhm.
can I make things better? What's the opportunity here? Because asking yourself the right questions can always lead you to solutions to every challenge and every problem that you encounter as a leader.
And again, thank you so much as well for sharing your story or your own experience when you had the burnout, because of, like, the stress at work. And also, as a mom, right, we also get stressed when our children get sick as well. And sometimes there are things that will, happen to us where it's not really within our control or within our influence. And that goes back to what you've said, that it's really about how aware you are, of yourself, in order for you to respond properly and to lead yourself well, so that you can lead others as well. So I really appreciate that reminder for every one of us. Although I know it's easier said than done, right? But that's how it is. We have to do our best to, like, remember about the circle of influence and leading ourselves and having that awareness as well, in order to be able to handle all of these. So wow, it was the conversation is quite fast, so I really appreciate that. But I have my last question then is, if you have a magic wand and can use it, what will you do with it?
I think if I will have a magic wand, I will help people to remember who they are. I mean, at the very long stage, I also realized that I was burnout because I was living society's norm. I have to be successful with this kind of job, position, materials, and everything I have in life. But I also would like to have a magic wand to help people remember that, wait, you are unique. There's a unique purpose in calling in your life, and
Mhm.
you have everything in your power to have everything you want. If you were just reminded of that you can be the victor of your situation, and everything that can happen, that, I mean, every bad has a good in it. Every
Mhm.
burden is a blessing in disguise. I mean, if I could help people understand that, and I
Mhm.
think it will change their life, because for me that was the switch,
Mhm.
from the victim to the victor, because I was like, oh, I have control. Nobody told me, right? Nobody taught me. But when I understood that concept, I never stopped sharing, because when you know that you have the power to change your life, then it becomes a different game altogether. That formula itself is like, okay, that's 10%, I have the 90%, and every positive response to every negative situation will always lead to good things, I'll say.
Wow, I really love that. And again, even without the magic wand, for sure, that's what you are already doing with the work that you do as a coach, as a trainer, and even like inspiring other people through the post and contents that you're creating on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for um, being able to be a blessing to others even without your magic wand, being able to help others to remember this, right, that that they have they can actually be in control if they just have this awareness and just be reminded of this, right? Because it's interesting, like we always try to please others and we always try to be like others, and yet just being us, just being you, just being yourself, right, is already a gift not only for yourself but to everyone around you, right? Because as you've mentioned, we have our own purpose, we have our own role to play in this lifetime. So I really appreciate that reminder. And before we end this conversation, is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience with, in terms of your message or any invitation that you'd like to share with us?
So first, thank you, Marilyn, for having this opportunity to share my journey. I can talk the whole day. That's actually the but if there's any way I can support or help you, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love, you wrote here transforming, thriving together. I mean, my life is, I'll say, a product of transformation because of the people who helped me. That's
Mhm.
why I chose to now help others before me, because it's really life changing to get somebody to hear you, to teach you with the tools. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn, in any way I can help through training or coaching. But I would like to personally invite you on October 6 and 7. I will be in Philippines together with Paolo T. Big. We want to help you discover the power of your own voice. No, Marilyn, if you know me maybe from 20 years ago, I would have never imagined I can speak in any in any way, because I'm like a so introvert, and I don't know, I'm totally different person. But I'll say public speaking and understanding the power of my voice help me help myself and many more. So I want to give it back by sharing, how can you use the power of your own voice so you can impact and influence others. So, and you move from fear of public speaking to being, an impactful person in at
Mhm.
work and business. So please, if there's any way Paolo and I can help you, I would like to see you on October 6 and 7. This will be in the Philippines. It's on my LinkedIn account. You can check it out there.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And again, it's an invitation for everyone who's here, especially those who are already in the Philippines or will be in the Philippines during that time on October 6 to 7. Join Wanda and Paulo in that journey. Especially, like, again, we have our own story, we have our own voice. And it's important that you let it out and share it, share your gifts, share your talents to other people, because you'll never know like how much impact it can actually create in others lives, right? So thank you so much for that invitation, and thank you for this, the important insights and reminders that you have shared with us. If again, please do share in the comments, so that they can easily click the link to that particular event. Please do so. And again, thank you everyone for those who are especially watching us live today. And for those who are watching us on a replay, please remember to add in like your takeaways from this conversation and any additional question that you might have for Wanda. Please do so. Ask the question. I'm tagging her so that she can see the questions as well. And again, let's do our part to create more opportunities to, through several interventions similar to this, to create a world that's full of hope, full of opportunities, right? And something that we wanted and we believe in, right? And remember that even the richest investors in the world would say that investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever make in your life. So, with that, thank you again, Wanda. And we would like to leave you with this quote from Dolly Parton that if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, to learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader. Thank you for being an excellent leader for us today, Wanda. And all,
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure.
thank you. Bye for now and stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.